Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and I just got back from my pre-release, my first pre-release. I'm going back to one tomorrow at the Gamers Emporium here in London, Ontario, at Oxford and Wonderland Road if you're in the area. It was a fantastic pre-release, both because it was an awesome set and it was just an awesomely put on event with a bunch of fantastic people. It's my local shop. Awesome. Tons of door prizes. There were a bunch of old comics up for raffle. There was some loot crate stuff. You've seen me unbox this loot crate here. There was also a From the Vault Angels up for door prize. You didn't have to do well. You just had to show up, and you could have won it. Yeah, it was a great event. We had 56, I want to say, maybe even 58 people out for it. Huge event, one of the biggest event we've had. A couple of expedition lands were open, 3 actually. Then there was an arid mesa. There was a flooded strand that you'll see in just a little bit. There was also a blood crypt, I believe. Really fun event. It went for 6 rounds. Fantastic prizing. Top 8 got 10 packs. 9th through 16th got 2 packs. I love flat play structures like that. The store owner was caught watching my set review while we were playing, which was definitely strange, hearing my voice talking about cards that I was sitting, a few feet away with, playing those cards. But it was a great event. Some of you who have followed me on Twitter know how I did, but I am going to do a recap so that you can hear how I did, both what my deck was, my deck construction, and how my matches went. But without further ado, we are going to switch on over to the deck build. So just quickly going over the playables and the colors I didn't play, we had Zendikar Grinder, who looked awesome with an Outnumber, a Rolling Thunder, a Vestige of Emrakul, and Nettle Drone. That was really about the best I had in red. Red was simply cut pretty darn quick after I looked at my pool. Faster than red being cut was white, where these were literally the 2 best cards that I could see. Amiria Shepherd, pretty darn good. Lithomancer's Focus, way different. Cut quick. Black looked a whole lot more interesting, with a Demon's Grasp, a Complete Disregard, a Skitter Skin, a Fathom Feeder was there, pushing me towards black-blue even, but unfortunately black fell apart after that. There was some decent cards, but nothing fantastic. The final rare I had was a Gruesome Slaughter, which wasn't terribly exciting. I want to see how this card plays out, but I didn't really want to test that at pre-release, so I left it in my sideboard. Without further ado, though, let's get on to my actual deck. I played with an Evolving Wilds because I just like the card. It helps out with landfall, though I didn't have a terrible amount of it. Titan and Coils was pretty darn good removal. It was about the best I was going to get in blue or green. There was Unnatural Aggression, but I unfortunately didn't get any of them. The flying was actually pretty relevant sometimes. I had an Oran Reef Invoker at 2, which just wasn't very good. It was basically a 2/2 for 2 for me. I think I activated it a single time. Over in the 3-drop spot, we had Eldrazi Sky Spawner, who was awesome. Ruination Guide, who was also quite good at because I had a large amount of colorless. Void Attendant, and the rest of my processors didn't do too much. Call of the Scions did great at ramping. Lifespring Druid also did great at ramping. Undergrowth Champion I was very happy to see. He didn't do too much except for a single game, but I definitely see the power there. The power is much more in Constructed than it is in Limited, but it is still fine in Limited. A 2/2 for 3 with that ability is fine. 3-drop spells, I had Natural Connection, again, more ramp, instant speed ramp, really nice. Spell Shrivel was also very good for me. A lot of people tapped out quite a bit, or, didn't have 4 mana left on tap. That 4 is really backbreaking. I was pretty happy with Spell Shrivel, I've got to say. Saved my butt a number of times against removal especially. In the 4-drop slot, we had Eyeless Watcher, who was great ramp, Cryptic Cruiser, who again, processors didn't do too much for me. I didn't have enough ingest. Incubator Drone, more ramp. Brood Hunter Worm, just a vanilla 4/3. Did its work, but that was about it. Down in the 4-drop spell slot, hey, there's Miss Kiora, Master of the Depths. She did some work. She's much better than I gave her credit for, though she's still not amazing, but I'm never not going to pick her or play with her because she's fantastic. Coastal Discovery was also quite good, possibly better than I gave it credit for. In the 5 and 6-drop spell slot, there was nothing. Windrider Patrol was fantastic in the 5-drop flyer slot, so good. Oracle of Dust held the ground like crazy. Wavewing Elemental, just like Windrider, great in the air. Deathless Behemoth was okay. Drowner of Hope, that card is way better than I gave it credit for. I really liked that card, and I'm going to pick it a little bit highly. 6-drop kind of scares me. We'll see how fast the draft format is, but it was good. Bane of Belagad, of course, was also fantastic. Annihilator's good, we all know that. And finally, I also had a Scour of Existence, which is expensive, but did its work. It killed things that I needed to kill. And that's the deck. The deck did quite well. I was pretty happy with it by the end of the day, though I wasn't originally during the deck build. But we're going to talk about my matches, how I did, and how the tournament finished up. So match 1, I was up against a relatively good deck. It was black, I want to say blue. In fact, yes, I believe it was black-blue. And it was playing Ob Nixilis, which definitely terrified me. I had Kiora, but I did not want to go up against Ob Nixilis. My opponent had some very good plays. They did get Ob Nixilis down twice, though I was able to power through it both times, once with a flyer for damage and once with Scour for existence, just killing Ob Nixilis. He took it to 3. I did have to play 3 games to win this one, but I did win it. Game 1, hilariously, my Eldrazi Sky Spawner, my 2/1 flyer, did every single last point of damage in the entire game. It went 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 0. All from a single creature. It just got through. He had no flyers on board. Some in his deck, but just not on board. The second game, I lost pretty quickly due to very greedily keeping a 1-land hand, I admit. I was greedy. I had a natural connection. I had a Lifespring Druid. I was on the draw. I was greedy. I learned my lesson. Game 3, the mana god smiled on me, and I ramped into a Bane of Belaged on turn 5, which very resoundingly finished that game off for the match win. Match 2, I was up against a red, green, blue deck, pretty evenly spread through those 3 colors as well. Flyers was the name of that game for me in game 1, namely the 3 blue guy. Wind Rider Patrol, I want to say is their name. They're just really good. 4/3 flyer for 5 is really, really, really powerful, especially against red-green. And yeah, the Scry was just great. It got a ton of card advantage for me. He couldn't handle the flyers, and he couldn't get through because I had Oracle of Dust on board, and 3/5 blanked basically his entire ground plan, and that was repeated in game 2. It was a grindy win through the airs condition, but I pulled that game out and managed to go 2-0. Feeling pretty good with the deck at that point. I was a little bit shaky with the deck at first. When I first built it, it seemed weird. Of course, it was high-end stuff, which is somewhat more okay in Sealed and somewhat more okay in Battle for Zendikar than normal. But as I was starting to get a feel for it, I was starting to see how the ramp could work, although it had been inconsistent up to that point. And I also saw how the air could work, how the Sky Spawn and the Wind Rider and the Elemental could work out. Match 3, I was up against a black, red, blue, colorless Eldrazi deck, very similar to mine, very similar to what I was playing, except he was playing red added into it. I don't know the exact makeup, but I again believe it was a relatively even split. He had good removal, he had good counter spells. The first game was a little bit grindy. I definitely had the advantage as I had him down to 2 life, and I think I was still sitting at about 16 when Ulamog hit the table on his side of the board, which terrified me, especially because I had just thrown away a Scour from Existence, which of course kills Ulamog easily off of a Kiora activation. He asked me how many cards I had in my library. I counted, and I had 19. I played a Drowner of Hope, and realized that drowned his hope, because the 2 Scions were able to tap Ulamog and his other guy, leaving him with 1 blocker and me with 2 power creatures, allowing me to get through with lethal, even with Ulamog sitting there. The second game was weird. We played easily 12 to 13 turns without doing a single point of damage to either person, and with the board being relatively empty. There were counterspells, there was removal happening, there were trades happening left and right, but finally I was able to stick good old Bane of Belaged, which run him over and won me that game, or that match, in 2. So going into match 4, I was 3-0, feeling pretty good about the deck, although still a little bit shaky. I still didn't think it was a good deck. Spoiler alert, I do now think it was a good deck, but I was still a bit shaky. But match 4 came along, and it was again a good match. I was against somewhat of an aggressive match. I believe it was red-white? possibly with black. It had black for sure because I believe he had up Nixilis, thankfully, who never got played in that match. I managed to kill him once in match 1. Thankfully, in match 4, I didn't really have to deal with him. The match was good, although relatively uneventful, except for the final aspect of Game 2 being me ultimating Kiora, managing to get my 3/8/8 octopuses to clean his board and having just a disgusting amount of power on my side. And I managed to pull that one out to go 4-0. At that point, I realized we're in a 6-round event, and I'm 4-0. There's only one other 4-0, and I started to crunch the numbers. Could I draw and guarantee myself to get into the top 8? Because, of course, it was a flat play structure. It was 10 packs to 1st through 8th. So as long as I got 8th, I would still get 10 packs. So I crunched the numbers. I carefully crunched the numbers, and I discovered that, yes, I was pretty sure I could draw. But of course, at my store at least, we don't draw and then just leave. We draw and play the games for fun. We find out who would have actually won, even though we did draw. So I played against the deck that I was kind of terrified about. The only other 4-0 deck, the deck that hadn't lost a game yet that day. I had lost 1 or 2 games, but this deck hadn't lost a single game. It was Jeskai. It was red, white, and blue. Playing ultimately Desolation Twin for the win frequently. I saw him play. Turns out a 20/20 for 10 is decent. It was a couple of very good matches, but I ended up holding the ground and winning through the air most of the time. Bane of Belaget, of course, being an absolute all-star and definitely helping me out as well there. Thankfully, Desolation Twin just didn't come down, and I managed to win that match in 2. So at that point, I was 4-0-1, although technically I was 5-0. Going into the final match, I crunched the numbers again for the top 6 of us that were sitting at the top tables to figure out, could we all draw into top 8? And we could, but we play for fun because we want to know who would have actually won. So we sat down, we played another very good match with a returning player who's just getting back into Magic, and it was a great matchup. Again, I managed to ramp out very, very well. My ramp started to come together later in the day. I don't know if my ramp was good or if I just got lucky or if I was unlucky at the start of the day. I don't quite know what was going on there, but I do think Natural Connection's fantastic and Lifespring Druid is fantastic, and the large amount of Scion producers I had was fantastic. And it allowed me to get out the big creatures that I needed. Bane of Belaget, of course, and the 6/6 Eldrazi, I can't think of the name of right now. And again, Drowner of Hope was the one that won me that game. Sacking the Scions to tap things to get my team through was enough to really just run it over. And I went 6-0. Technically, I went 4-0-2, but in our hearts, in my heart anyways, I went 6-0, undefeated throughout the day. Fantastic tournament, fantastic format. I can't wait for draft. I cannot wait for draft. I feel like I'm ultimately not going to like the sealed for Battle for Zendikar. I feel like Battle for Zendikar sealed could be more swingy than normal. And sealed, of course, can be swingy. But I feel like the draft has just a billion possibilities going on with it, and I cannot wait to sit down a week from now at F&M and draft this set. And of course, you guys will get to see that draft on this channel for next week's Spiky Saturday. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at The Mana Leak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mana Leak. You've found me here on YouTube. You've got the comment section down below. Let me know how your pre-release went. Let me know, did you do well? Did you do poorly? Did you open awesome cards? Did you open an Expedition land? Let me know how your pre-release went down below. As well, if you like the videos, you should click those little thumbs up icons. Let me know that you like the videos. Let the world know that you like those videos, and let my videos keep rising up through the ranks. Finally, as always, if you haven't subscribed, you should. There's a button below each video. There's one in the outro of each video, and clicking on that will keep you posted on all the latest Track Pack Tuesdays, Wacky Wednesdays, Spiky Saturdays, any other new series that may or may not happen to pop up sometime next week, and of course all the other videos that pop up here or there. I will tell you that I am aiming to do a video every single day next week of various things, the regularly scheduled as well as the extras, so stay tuned for that. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.